Princess Lyra moved gracefully along the long corridors of her palace, her silver-blue robes flowing behind her. Every step she took was measured, precise, as though she carried the calm of her entire planet with her. The walls of the palace shimmered softly, reflecting the light from the floating crystal lanterns, casting delicate patterns on the polished floor. She had always been admired for her composure. Diplomats and nobles alike often said that nothing could disturb her calm. Nothing except perhaps the unexpected. That morning, news arrived that a human delegation would be joining the interstellar diplomatic talks. Humans were rare in this region of space. Their reputation as brave, unpredictable, and sometimes reckless beings preceded them. Lyra had met humans only in holographic messages before. She had imagined them carefully, always under control, observing, calculating. But meeting one in person was a different matter. Captain Ethan, the human soldier assigned to the delegation, stepped onto the landing platform as the transport ship's doors hissed open. He moved with a confidence that was natural rather than trained, his brown eyes scanning the surroundings with a sharp awareness. Unlike the aliens who walked in exact lines and precise steps, he walked with an easy rhythm, his shoulders relaxed. There was something in the way he carried himself that made him seem both approachable and unshakable. Lyra was led to the meeting hall where the delegation would formally greet her. She had spent countless hours preparing for these talks, memorizing every detail of protocol, every gesture that was expected. She had always prided herself on her control. But as she approached Ethan for the first time, she felt a strange tension she could not name. "Princess Lyra," Ethan said, bowing slightly, though not as deeply as her people would have done. "It's an honor to meet you." Lyra nodded, offering the practiced, calm smile that had served her so well throughout her life. "Captain Ethan, welcome to our planet." Her voice was smooth, even like a placid lake. Yet inside she felt a flutter she had never experienced before. His eyes were direct, curious, and for a moment she almost forgot herself. The initial greetings passed without incident. The delegation moved into the hall where the discussions would take place. Crystal screens floated in the air, displaying data from other planets, trade agreements, and security arrangements. Lyra listened carefully, speaking in her calm, melodic voice, explaining protocols and procedures. Ethan watched her, genuinely attentive, nodding at points and asking clear, practical questions. It was during the review of security measures that the unexpected happened. A small unmarked drone, part of the palace's defensive system, malfunctioned. Its sensors misread a harmless maintenance robot as a threat. Red warning lights flashed across the hall, and the drone activated its defense protocols. The delegates froze, unsure how to react. Alien security officers moved, but the drone was fast, unpredictable, and armed with energy pulses capable of serious harm. In the midst of the confusion, Lyra remained poised. Though her hands gripped the edge of the table slightly tighter than usual, Ethan acted immediately. Without waiting for orders, he stepped in front of the nearest delegates, raising his arms to signal them back. Using a combination of quick thinking and human intuition, he managed to disable the drone's energy pulse system. He did not panic. He moved with precision, but there was an instinctive quality to his actions. He reacted to the situation in ways that were not entirely planned, but entirely effective. Lyra watched, her usual calm faltering slightly. Her eyes widened just enough to reveal surprise. No one had ever acted so swiftly, so decisively in moments of crisis. The human's reputation as unpredictable beings suddenly made sense. Ethan had saved lives, her included, and he had done it with a calmness that was entirely natural. When the drone finally powered down and the warning lights ceased, the hall was silent. Delegates looked around, shocked and relieved. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady but with a subtle edge she could not hide. "Captain Ethan, your actions were exceptional." Ethan shrugged lightly as though it were nothing extraordinary. "I just reacted to the situation. Everyone is safe, that's what matters." Lyra nodded, but inside she felt something she had not expected. Admiration and a fluttering curiosity. She excused herself from the hall shortly afterward, retreating to her private chambers. Once inside, she allowed herself to breathe deeply. Her mind replayed every moment of the encounter. The way he moved, the way he assessed danger, the way he instinctively protected others. It was foreign, yet fascinating. For hours, she walked along the balcony of her chambers overlooking the city. The crystal towers gleamed in the soft light of the planet's twin suns. She had seen this view countless times, but today it felt different. Her thoughts kept returning to the human soldier who had disrupted her perfect composure. She had always believed that nothing could shake her. Yet here she was, feeling a tension she could neither name nor control. The next day, Lyra accompanied the delegation to a cultural exchange ceremony. Humans were known for their curiosity and adaptability, and Ethan proved this in abundance. He asked questions about alien traditions, not out of politeness but genuine interest. He noticed the small details, the way certain ceremonial objects were used, the subtleties of alien etiquette. While others followed the protocol strictly, he observed, sometimes smiled, and occasionally made remarks that were surprisingly insightful. Lyra found herself responding differently than she would with other aliens. She explained more, added stories and details, even a few light jokes. She noticed that Ethan's presence made her loosen the control she usually held so tightly. A small smile appeared on her face without her realizing it. Later, as the ceremony ended, Lyra walked back through the palace gardens. The gardens were vast, with floating water orbs, glowing flowers, and pathways that twisted gracefully among crystalline trees. Ethan followed at a respectful distance, allowing her space, yet remaining close enough to be ready if needed. "You seem very comfortable here," Ethan said, his voice quiet but carrying a warmth that made Lyra pause. "I am," she replied carefully. "These gardens have been part of my life for many years." He nodded, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "It's beautiful, peaceful, but I can see that there is more beneath the surface: rules, discipline, responsibility." Lyra considered his words. He understood more than she expected. She said softly, almost to herself, "Yes, more than most can imagine." For a moment, silence passed between them, comfortable yet charged with something unspoken. Lyra realized that she could have this conversation with him in ways she could not with others. His presence did not demand formality. It invited honesty, even if subtly. That night, alone in her chambers, Lyra reflected on the day. She recalled the moments when her composure had faltered, the way her heart had quickened slightly around him, the tension in her chest that was unfamiliar and unexpected. She had always believed herself untouchable in the calm of her exterior. But this human soldier had demonstrated that some things, bravery, authenticity, simplicity, could unsettle even a princess. Lyra looked out at the city again, the twin suns setting, casting long shadows and warm light. She realized that while she could maintain her composure for the world, for him, there was a different truth. Around this human soldier, her carefully controlled emotions were no longer entirely under her control. And for the first time in her life, she welcomed it. The palace was quiet, but her mind was alive with thoughts and questions. Who was this human? How had he come to act with such courage and instinct? Could someone from such a distant, different world teach her something about herself? Princess Lyra did not know yet, but she felt a curiosity and an anticipation she could not ignore. And somewhere, deep inside, she looked forward to the next encounter, knowing that this human soldier had begun to change her world in ways she had never imagined. The morning light filtered through the crystal windows of the palace, casting delicate reflections on the polished floor. Princess Lyra walked with her usual measured grace, but there was a subtle energy about her that she could not ignore. Ever since the incident with the rogue drone, her thoughts had been unusually occupied with the human soldier, Captain Ethan. She had spent countless hours replaying his calm, decisive actions, and the ease with which he had faced danger. No one had ever moved through her world with such confidence, and it left her both intrigued and unsettled. Ethan, meanwhile, had spent the night reviewing reports and preparing for the day's diplomatic missions. He moved with quiet determination, careful not to intrude but always observant. Humans were not naturally formal, yet he understood the importance of respecting boundaries, especially with someone like Lyra. Despite this, he could sense her attention on him, in ways subtle but unmistakable. The day's first engagement was a tour of the city's central archives, where knowledge from across the galaxy was stored. The hall was enormous, with floating books, holographic displays, and interactive screens. Lyra led the way, explaining the history of the archives and the protocols for preserving the information. Ethan followed closely, not as an observer but as an active participant, asking questions about the technology and processes. "You study history as carefully as you manage your present," Ethan remarked, scanning a holographic display of planetary records. It's impressive. Lyra glanced at him, a faint smile touching her lips. Understanding the past ensures stability for the future. It is our responsibility. He nodded, but there was a human curiosity in his eyes, a desire to see beyond mere protocol. Sometimes I wonder if the future needs more unpredictability, he said lightly. It keeps people alert, alive. The comment made Lyra pause. She had always valued precision and planning above all else. Yet hearing it from someone so genuine, so different, sparked a thought she had never considered. Was there value in unpredictability? In instincts that could not be entirely calculated? Their tour continued, and Lyra found herself explaining not only the formal aspects of the archives but also the small stories behind artifacts, something she rarely shared. Ethan listened intently, never interrupting, never rushing, yet his presence encouraged openness. By the end of the tour, she felt a subtle shift inside her. A recognition that this human soldier could make her reveal parts of herself she kept carefully hidden. The day progressed with meetings and discussions about interstellar trade agreements. The atmosphere was tense, with alien diplomats negotiating with precision, each phrase carefully weighed. Ethan stayed beside Lyra, offering insight only when necessary, often observing silently. His calm, rational perspective complemented Lyra's structured approach, and she realized that together they formed a balance she had not anticipated. Late in the afternoon, an urgent message arrived from the Palace Security Council. A group of political rivals, dissatisfied with the current negotiations, had attempted a sabotage. An energy surge had been detected near the planetary communications array. Without delay, Lyra and Ethan made their way to the location. The communication facility was a maze of corridors, glowing panels, and hums of active machinery. Lyra's knowledge of the layout was precise, but Ethan's instincts proved invaluable. He guided her through alternative paths, avoiding potential hazards and scanning for any threats that sensors might miss. His movements were confident yet flexible, a combination of trained skill and natural intuition. Suddenly, a surge of energy sparked from a compromised conduit, threatening to overload the system. Lyra's hand hovered near the emergency controls, but Ethan acted first, leaping forward to redirect the energy flow with a makeshift solution using tools nearby. Sparks flew and the air hummed with intensity. Lyra could only watch, her heart racing, not with fear but with admiration and something more subtle, something personal. Once the immediate danger was contained, Lyra assessed the situation. "You acted without hesitation," she said quietly, her voice carrying an emotion she rarely allowed to surface. Most would have waited for orders. Ethan gave a small shrug, wiping soot from his sleeve. "Sometimes waiting costs more than acting. I couldn't risk anyone getting hurt, including you." Lyra looked at him, feeling the warmth of gratitude and a deeper, unspoken connection. The calm she maintained for her world faltered in his presence, revealing a side of herself that was humanly vulnerable. She realized that bravery, authenticity, and instinct were qualities that transcended species, and that this human soldier embodied them fully. In the days that followed, Lyra and Ethan spent more time together, though always under the guise of diplomatic work. During strategy sessions, she found herself smiling at his remarks, appreciating his insights, and occasionally laughing softly at his subtle humor. It was a new experience for her, to find comfort and intrigue in the presence of someone so different. One evening, as the twin suns set, Lyra invited Ethan to the palace gardens. The floating water orbs glimmered in the fading light, and the crystalline flowers reflected shades of orange and purple. They walked side by side, the usual formality between them softened by shared moments of observation and reflection. "You seem more at ease here than in the halls of negotiation," Ethan remarked. Watching a soft glow ripple across the water, Lyra considered his words. "Perhaps. The gardens allow reflection. They remind me of simplicity amidst responsibility." He nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Sometimes it takes someone from another world to remind you of that." Lyra felt a gentle warmth at his words, a recognition that her thoughts and feelings were seen and valued. She realized that her admiration for him had grown into something more profound, an appreciation not only for his courage but for his character, his humanity. The next day brought another challenge. A delegation from a neighboring system arrived, their intentions unclear. Tensions rose quickly as negotiations began. Aliens around them whispered, calculated, and postured. Lyra maintained her composure, but Ethan noticed the subtle signs of stress, the slight tightening of her jaw, the way her fingers brushed a crystal pendant unconsciously. During a tense moment, the delegation attempted a deceptive maneuver, trying to manipulate the data being shared. Ethan acted instinctively, uncovering the trick with clear, logical reasoning. His intervention prevented a potential diplomatic disaster. Lyra, usually calm under scrutiny, found herself acknowledging aloud, "Your perception is extraordinary. You see what others miss?" Ethan smiled faintly. "I just notice what's happening, Princess. I don't assume. I act when it matters." The simplicity of his words, the honesty behind them, struck her. She realized that in him she had found not just bravery, but integrity and clarity, qualities that complemented her own, and challenged her in ways that were both unsettling and exciting. As the day concluded, Lyra and Ethan walked through the quiet palace corridors. She had come to expect her calm demeanor to be tested by events, but what surprised her most was how often it faltered simply because of him. In his presence she was both herself and something more. Curious, reflective, and unexpectedly flustered. Later, alone in her chambers, Lyra reflected on the events of the past days. She thought of Ethan, his actions, his words, and the way he moved through her world with confidence and authenticity. Her thoughts wandered to possibilities she had never considered. Friendship, trust, even something closer, though she did not name it. For the first time, she embraced the idea that connection could cross boundaries of species, culture, and expectation. She looked out at the city, the twin moons rising to join the fading suns, and allowed herself a small private smile. The world expected her calm, her measured grace, her unshakable composure. Yet around this human soldier, she was allowed to be more than that. She was allowed to feel, to wonder, and to be intrigued. And somewhere deep within, she knew that this was only the beginning. The calm alien princess had been flustered once, but now she was aware of a bond forming, one that could change her life, and perhaps the lives of many others. The human soldier had come to her world unexpectedly, yet he had proven that courage, instinct, and authenticity were qualities worthy of admiration across the galaxy. As the night settled over the palace, Lyra whispered softly to herself, a rare admission of feeling and hope. Perhaps he is the one who will show me more than I ever imagined. In the quiet of her chamber, she realized that bravery was not only about facing danger, sometimes it was about opening one's heart to the unexpected and trusting in the courage of another. Ethan had done both, and in doing so he had left an indelible mark on the calm alien princess. She closed her eyes, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with anticipation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new responsibilities, and undoubtedly, new surprises. Yet she felt ready, for she knew that alongside her, this human soldier would remain, a steady, courageous presence, capable of stirring emotions even in the most composed of hearts. And so, the calm alien princess, once unshakable and precise, now embraced the unfamiliar warmth of curiosity, admiration, and connection. Around Captain Ethan, she discovered that even the most disciplined mind could find delight in unpredictability, and that even a heart bound by duty could find